Hello and welcome back to Below the Curve Gaming. My name is Ben and today I'm doing a short faction overview for my Kosmoflot Sectorial for Ariadna and Infinity N4. I want to talk over how I got started with the Kosmoflot, how I've found them to play in the games I've had so far, what unit profiles I'm looking to try out next, and what models I'm looking to purchase to expand the force. So on front of me is my current collection for Kosmoflot. I started with the Crimson Stone box set, which came out last month, and also the associated models that came in the bundle. So I picked up the bundle through Helveticus Games, which came in at £102, which was the Operation Crimson Stone, the Xantu Rush Dire Foes box set. It came with the Dragon Lady HVT model and Wolfgang Amadeus Wolf as the limited edition model. I split this with my friend Stephen, who took the Nomads side. So I got the Kosmoflot models for Ariadna. I got Caden First Strike Dawn from the Xantu Rush, and the HVT from Xantu Rush, which I don't have on show at the moment. It's through in the other room awaiting some paint. And I also got Wolfgang Amadeus Wolf. Stephen got the Nomads, the half of the Dire Foes for Nomads, as well as the Dragon Lady and the Scenery Pack for Crimson Stone. So these are the models that you get in Crimson Stone here to the right of the screen. So you get the 3 Ricots, one with a light shotgun, one with an SMG, and one with an AP marksman rifle. You get the Zenit 7, the SAS with boarding shotgun, a Para Commando with boarding shotgun, and a Volcalat with heavy machine gun. And then it was Caden First Strike Dawn, who is also available in Defiance, but this one's got 2 close combat weapons, whereas the Defiance have either 1 close combat weapon or 2-handed sword, depending on the version. And then Wolfgang Amadeus Wolf at the back. So I'll talk a bit through this box set because it's often what people get into Kosmoflot through, and my kind of thoughts on it so far. So it comes in about 150 points. If you include Caden and Wolfgang, it takes up to about 210, depending on the profiles. The Ricots, you've got a couple of choices for. So the light shotgun model can either signify the light shotgun and rifle profile or the light shotgun and chain rifle profile. There's a lieutenant option for the light shotgun and rifle profile, which I believe is 10 points. The chain rifle comes in at 8, if I'm correct. And then there's the SMG model, which could be used as a paramedic. I believe there's a forward observer version as well, and you can also take a limited one-use camouflage version of it as well with infiltration, which I did try in our latest battle report. And then there's a marksman rifle, the AP marksman rifle, which personally I find the lieutenant options are a wee bit lackluster. They're willpower 13, and because generally speaking I've used them in a fire team, I haven't got much use out of them being the lieutenant. However, they're a good kind of one to be hidden away in some ways, and a kind of lieutenant that you're probably not going to lose as long as you're careful with your fire team. The Ricots come with fire team core, and they come with courage as special skills. Otherwise, they're 4-4 movement, CC 14, BS 10, physical 11, willpower 13, 1 armor, 0 BTS, 1 wound, and silhouette 2. I think they're okay for line troops. I found them to be not too bad so far, but only when in fire team. I found individually they haven't really done anything that's I found beneficial gaming wise. They're often potentially just more of a deterrent as an ARO than actually being able to do that much damage with some of the profiles, but it depends on what you take. Certainly the SMG with its AP or shock rounds is quite good, as is the chain rifle profile for 8 points. I find quite good for protecting the kind of rear of my deployment zone or the kind of back of my fire team as I move forward. I generally have it facing a different way, so if anything appears, it can fire out a couple of shots with its template. Generally speaking, it's template version that I'm using. For the chain rifle, obviously it's a template version, but the light shotgun, you've got the option if you wanted a face-to-face, you could take that +6 if you were within close range as well. The one thing that I've found certainly with the Crimson Stone box set is they are the only lieutenant options, I believe, in that box set, just starting out, so it has made it a wee bit more limited for what I've got so far, in that they generally, in fact always, have been the lieutenant in the Kosmoflot games I've played. Moving on to the Volcalat. Now the Volcalat's one of the heavy infantry for the Kosmoflot. There's quite a few choices actually for heavy infantry, although some of them haven't came out as yet or have just turned up today perhaps. So the Volcalat comes in at 43 points for the HMG and 1.5 SWC. I found it to be, generally speaking, the leader of my fire team, the kind of gunfighter profile I'm using, albeit today I tried the Unknown Ranger instead, which I hadn't painted up prior to that, so it was kind of on the sidelines as it were till today. The Volcalat seems to be quite a good profile, I think. Move's still 4-4, CC 22, BS is 12, which is higher than most of the Kosmoflot stuff, but not the highest BS, I suppose. Physical 14, which is pretty good, with a dodge of +1 inch, allows it to be good as a kind of dodging piece to then potentially get into combat as well, which we'll talk about in a wee second. Willpower is 12, armor 4, BTS 0. It's 1 wound, but it does have no wound incapacitation, so it's kind of 1.5 maybe, 2 wounds. Maybe not 2 wounds. Yeah, 1.5 is what I would say, as opposed to it being as good as having 2 wounds, and silhouette 2 as well. It's got Natural Born Warrior to remove martial arts skills of the opponents, which, from facing mainly Martin's JSA recently, it has proven quite beneficial, although often, despite having it, it depends what you take as your reaction, but often it cancels their martial arts, but they're often attacking with like a fairly good physical and like a monofilament weapon or something like that, so you're still on shaky ground if you're relying on it. It has immunity total, which is really good though, so that allows you to ignore any special ammunition types, which I find pretty good, although it's something I keep forgetting about, so I haven't got as much use out of it as I should have, but when I've remembered it, it's been really good. And super jump as well, which is great for jumping up buildings and moving faster than your 4-4 movement would suggest. The profile I've used most of all just because it's been on the model, and also because I've been putting it in the fire team to lead the fire team or to be a longer range ARO piece whilst in the fire team, is a heavy machine gun. It comes with also a chain colt +1 burst, grenades, heavy pistol, and an AP close combat weapon. So 443 points, which is on the pricier side for Kosmoflot stuff, I feel. It's still been very good, and in some ways being pricier allows you to kind of have a bit of a point sink, because you could find that trying to fit in 15 orders in Ariadna or no more than 15 orders, but also hitting your 300 points and 6 SWC can be quite difficult to do at times. Moving on, the Para Commando. Now this one here has a boarding shotgun. It's mimetism -3 and parachutist, so it allows it to come on from one of the side table edges. It doesn't have deployment zone, so it will be kind of along the sides, but it spends its order to do so. And terrain 0G, which is pretty useful, certainly in ITS Season 12, which had the 0G zones. However, obviously going into ITS Season 13, which I believe is going to be available very shortly, those are changing to blizzard zones, so the terrain 0G might not be as beneficial. This model has a boarding shotgun. Now, I tend to pick the forward observing options. There is the forward observer with a BS attack of +1 damage, which is quite good, but it's 26 points, so it's a balancing act of if you've got the points to fit it in. But it comes with boarding shotgun, flash pulse, decharges, pistol, and close combat weapon. I found the decharges to be quite useful as well, particularly in the ITS scenarios using the classified objectives, because I seem to have a knack of drawing sabotage quite often. Stats wise, it's 4-4, it's CC 14, BS 12, physical 11, which is a wee bit on the lower side. WEP of 14, which is quite, well, it's higher than the rest of the, or the majority of the faction. I don't think it's got lieutenant option though, which to make use of that whip, but it's maybe for its flash pulse that you're getting the benefit from that for. Armor 2, BTS 0, 1 wound, and size 2. So it's not bad as I kind of bring it on the side, either turn 2, turn 3, and then try and get into particularly quadrants, which I was playing today, although I couldn't quite fit it into the faction for quadrant control. So a profile certainly I want to try a bit more of, particularly that boarding shotgun with +1 damage should be quite potent at damage 15. So then there's the SAS. Now this model has the boarding shotgun. However, the profile I've found to be the most beneficial has been the cheaper option, which comes with a light shotgun, but I've been using this as a stand-in for it because I think the model's fantastic. So it's a forward observer, 21 points. It comes with chain rifle, light shotgun, flash pulse, decharges, pistol, AP and shot, close combat weapon, plus a plethora of special rules: surprise attack -3, martial arts level 2, camouflage, courage, dodge +1 inch, infiltration, mimetism -3, terrain total, and stealth. So quite a mouthful, a lot going on there. But I found for starting in your half of the table as opposed to your deployment zone as a camo marker at -3, sometimes good as a kind of held back option, although generally speaking I kind of use another model to hold back, which we'll talk about in a wee minute. But having that kind of option to place it where you need within the kind of half of the table, particularly if you're playing classified objectives or there's HVTs that you need to kind of spot. It's quite a useful kind of profile for that. The boarding shotgun version wasn't bad, but I think it was a specialist operative as opposed to the forward observer, and I just felt that the light shotgun chain rifle was a more useful profile. So I've focused on that recently, although it's something I'll have to try them a bit more and see what I feel from there. And rounding off the core box, as it were, is the Zenit 7. Now, This one, I believe, is actually an AP marksman rifle, although I believe there's an AP sniper rifle option as well. And to be fair, I'm not 100% sure on which model that's meant to be. So I have used it as a mixture of the two. Generally speaking, I try the forward observer one, although today I used the chain of command, which comes in at 32 points and 0.5 SWC. It's got surprise attack -3, BS attack of +1 damage, and BS attack of shock. So it's with the AP marksman rifle, it goes up to damage 14, AP, and shock, which I find quite useful, although shock immunity is quite prevalent in N4, it looks like, so it's maybe not as beneficial as I'd first thought. Camouflage, mimetism -3. It's got decoy 1, so you place the 2 camouflage markers within 8 of each other. Has to be in your deployment zone, I believe, but quite useful for kind of almost bluffing which one's which. I always kind of mark, because I'm using the Kaldstrom tokens, they've got the numbers on them, so I'll generally have marked on my sheet which one's which, and then place them accordingly, and also stealth as well. I've found the Zenit to be quite fragile though. I mean, it has armor 2, which isn't bad, and it will generally be in cover, but it's BS 12, which isn't the highest when you're looking at it, particularly as a kind of almost sniping piece. It's not the highest BS, and often you'll be rolling kind of 12 or sometimes 9, depending what you're shooting. Because although you'll be getting the +3, you're often then counteracting that with cover. So it can find itself outgunned at times. I'm maybe not using it to its best of its abilities. At first I was using it predominantly as an ARO piece, but now I'm trying to use it a bit more on the offensive to kind of get the most out of the surprise attack when rolling 3 dice for the marksman rifle. But it's been a bit hit or miss so far. So that's the core box, as it were, what you get in the Crimson Stone. Wolfgang Amadeus Wolf, I obviously got from the set as well. He's not bad, certainly. He's got a multi-rifle with +1 burst, I believe, and he's quite a combat monster. I've used him once or twice, but haven't got the most use out of him. I did originally have him in a fire team, but I didn't get much use out of him in that either. So it's something that I'm not completely clued up how I want to use him yet. I found out of the two of them, Caden to be my more desirable model. I think Wolfgang's about 5 points more than Caden as well, which I felt that the often points wise I'm quite tight for getting everything in, so he's currently not been prioritised. So he's had a wee bit of painting, but once he's fully painted he might find himself a bit more on the board. So moving on to Caden, I found Caden to be really useful. I tend to run him in a duo with a Varangian because he's got the fire team special wildcard special rule. So he's 32 points, movement 4/4, 23 CC, BS 12, physical 14, whip 13, armor 3, which you wouldn't necessarily know it by looking at his vest and top, but BTS 0, 2 wounds, and silhouette 2. He comes with frenzy, so once he takes his first wound off an opponent, he gains impetuous. Although that's been counteracted by the fact I'm running him in the fire team. Martial arts level 2. CC attack he has AP in, or AP with. Berserk of +3, which means he can put both movements together and do a combat attack at the end of it, which is unopposed, and he gets +3 to his CC to do so. However, the opponent obviously gets their AROs against it, so you can find, whilst he will generally deal damage to whatever he's facing or hit whatever he's facing, he will potentially be taken out in revenge. Courage, dodge of +2 inch. He's got Fireteam Duo and he's got Natural Born Warrior, which combined with the martial arts means he gets his martial arts bonus, but the opponent doesn't get theirs, which could be clutch, particularly against stuff like Miyamoto and Martin's GSA or Yojimbo, those kind of models there. And he's also got Climbing Plus as well, which I believe when ITS Season 13 starts, that will give him an additional +1 to his initial movement stat. I'm not sure if it's a one-off use or if it's every move, so I'll have to read up on that. And the profile I use, he comes with a T2 rifle, grenades, heavy pistol, and a T2 close combat weapon, which combined with his close combat weapon attack of AP means that he's generally rolling 26 CC, which with martial arts means that he should crit on a 14 or higher. He's halving their armor, and then any wounds that he does are count as 2. Although it is key to note that with T2 and criticals, it's only, I think, the initial hit that gets a T2, the second hit doesn't. Found him to be really useful, as say, with the Varangian. I found that way that with the T2 rifle, I often get a bit suckered into initially holding him back and then trying to shoot. However, the more recent games, I've started trying to get him up the board and into combat and focus on those really good combat abilities that he's got. So talked quite a lot about him, but I'll move on to talking about some of the other models that I've added to the faction. And as I say, in that I've just spoken a lot about it, I'll talk about the Varangian as the next option. So you'll see that this isn't actually the Varangian Guard model, which is quite nice. However, Martin had bought the Outrage box set. Now he had bought it to get, I think, Emily for his Pano, but also the Oniwaban for his GSA, and in doing so had the Domaroy, I think he's called, sitting spare. So I quickly yoinked him and started painting him before there could be any objections. I did actually ask, but I've been using it as my Varangian because I think it's a really nice model. It fits really nicely in the faction. And because I'm not using any of the factions that have dog faces, I wouldn't otherwise have a use for it. So the profile I generally go for is a chain rifle, smoke grenades, heavy pistol, and AP close combat weapons. This comes in at a massive 9 points, 0 SWC. Now it is a warband model and impetuous, however, because it's got Fireteam Duo, if I combine it with Caden, that removes the impetuous and it gives Caden the access to smoke grenades, or not Caden himself necessarily, but gives the Fireteam access to the smoke grenade, so I can pop some smoke and then get Caden up the board so he's closer to getting to combat with stuff. Now, he's movement 4-4, he's CC 23, so equally as good in combat as Caden himself. BS is 10, but I'm firing a chain rifle generally, so that's not to worry. Physical 14, which is great for dodging. Willpower 13, Armor 2, which isn't too bad, BTS 0, 1 wound, Silhouette 2. He's Berserk +3, so much like Caden. Courage, Fireteam Duo, Fireteam Harris, Dogged, which allows him, when he takes his wound, to as long as he doesn't take any more, to continue fighting on till the end of that combat round, I believe. So as in the end of the Kosmoflot turn. Then he'll be removed as a casualty. Religious Troop, which allows him, I think he has to pass courage checks. Fireteam Core, if you were ever taken Fireteam Core of them, and Impetuous, as I say, but that's cancelled for the Fireteam. I found it to be one of the best profiles in the list so far, which is a bit surprising in that it's a mercenary troop, but certainly the benefits I've got out of it, I think it adds a lot to the faction. There are other ways of getting smoke, I believe. However, this is one of the few that I have modelled so far, or models for. So also in that box came the Uhahu model, which I believe is a nomad that gets used in Soldiers of Fortune, I want to say, or Star Company, one of them. It's available as a profile somewhere, but I have been using it as my Wardriver. Yet again, I did ask first, but I've painted it up to look like the rest of the Kosmoflot, and so it ties in with the faction. So the Wardriver is also a mercenary troop, and it's the only hacking option in the Sectorial. So far, I don't know, they'd maybe add some extra ones at some point, but it comes with two options. It's got the hacking device, and I believe there's a killer hacking device or a hacking zero pain. I'm not sure quite, but I've only been using the hacking device, which is 14 points and 1 SWC. It's Move 4-4, CC 13, BS 11, Fizz 10. It's only Willpower 13, which is a wee bit weak for its hacking, but there's, as I say, it's the only hacker in the faction. I think Nomads get higher whip for their hackers, but yeah, beggars can't be choosers. Armor 0, BTS 3, 1 wound, silhouette 2. Comes with 6 Sense and boarding shotgun, pistol and close combat weapon. I haven't got so much use out of it so far because I like to take it, but then often end up running out of order tokens to use on it. So I used it a lot more in the game that we've just played, where I managed to successfully hack with it, which was tick something off the bucket list for an Ariadna player. But it's certainly something I want to use a bit more of, and I'll have to have a read into the other profile and see what that brings to the faction. So that was the Outrage box set. I'm briefly touch on, this is my HVT that I'd painted up, which is a Cyberforge 3D printed model. We'd printed a couple of them just in case we rolled up the scenarios that you needed the free HVTs, and I'd painted it before painting the Xantu Rush one, so I need to finish it off and paint. I had another Cyberforge one to be the third option. I'm not sure if I haven't seen the missions for season 13, so I don't know if that's something that we'll need going forward for that. Now, the next model here that I've added has been the Unknown Ranger. Now, as you can see, I'm using the Intel Spec Ops model with a 3D printed shield, which is from Vivictus Miniatures. And it's something I've only used once, but I wanted to add, and I couldn't actually get hold of the Unknown Ranger that easily in the UK when I was looking to order it. I think there was one, but in one of the stores, and then when I went to order it, it was out of stock. So I just made do with this, and I wanted something that was a wee bit different, that didn't necessarily have the US kind of look to it. Although subsequently I have gone and bought the US starter set off somebody on Facebook that I saw going cheap, so I might have to pick up that Unknown Ranger soon as well. Now, this is one of the few MSV visors that you get in the faction. Now, I've got here the AP Spitfire profile that I was using today, which comes in at 47 points, so quite heavy on the points, and 1 SWC. It's a 6-2 move, which is really good. CC 23, BS 13, Physical 13, Whip 13, Armor 4, BTS 0, 1 wound, and Silhouette 2. As I say, comes with the MSV 1, comes with Martial Arts Level 2, Courage, Dodge plus 1 inch, Natural Born Warrior, Immunity to Shock, Mimetism -3, Specialist Operative, so it can do certain kind of classified objectives, Tactical Awareness, which is really good, so it gets a kind of irregular order to to use on itself, but if it's the leader of a fire team, it can also use it for the fire team. Stealth and no wound incapacitation. So yet again, kind of 1.5 wounds roughly. As I say, the profile I'm using is the AP Spitfire, Chain Colt, Heavy Pistol, and T2 Close Combat Weapon. Now, if you've had the fortune of watching the Quadrant Control mission, you'll see that I had mixed success with it. But it's certainly something that I've read a lot of positives about, and it's something I think I'll get a lot more use out of. I think I just need to get it into more advantageous positions. In the game, I felt I was a wee bit pinned down by the 0G zones, and the fact that there was quite a few fire lanes going over the area that I was hoping to cross. What I would have preferred to have done was have something that could have dropped smoke and then allowed me to go through. Because of the MSV visor, I would have been able to ignore the smoke, I believe, and I would have got a lot more use out of it. However, as I say, there's not that much smoke in the models that I've got so far. So something I need to bear in mind and see if there's ways that I can bring more into the faction. Moving on, this is one of the reasons, if not the only reason, I had for collecting Ariadna. My favourite character, I think, and some of my favourite models in the game, Usha McNeil. This is the Assault Pistol version, which is the new version that I've got, but I really like the Boarding Shotgun version as well. It's really cool. I've been using the Specialist Operative version, although I did kind of trial the Boarding Shotgun MSV version, although both, have Boarding Shotguns, but the one with the MSV to start with, and I kind of took it because I wanted to get the MSV into the Force, but actually I found that I was missing I felt I was lacking the option of the assault pistols to fire because they're +1 burst, fire out 5 shots on the active turn, which would have allowed a lot more options for taking multiple units on face-to-face wise. So Usha has move 4/4, CC 22, BS is 11, which is a bit low, but she does have the Boarding Shotgun, which takes up to 17 in close range, or the assault pistols are 14. So not the worst, but because of how often things stay in cover or have mimetism or that, generally speaking, she's going to be kind of around about the 11s to hit, which is a wee bit lower than what you're hoping for in my mind. Physical 13, Whip 13, Armour 0, BTS 0, 1 wound, and Silhouette 2. Comes in at 27 points, 0 SWC. I would say she's pretty much the first model on the roster every time, and generally speaking, there's an infiltrating camo token. Martin will know exactly what it is, but sometimes I try and not do the infiltration into the enemy side, to then try and kind of offer a couple of options as to which one's her, which one's the SAS, with infiltration as well. So she comes with Martial Arts level 2, Surprise Attack -3, Courage, Camouflage, Dodge +2, Infiltration +6. So if she does infiltrate in their side of the deployment zone, her Fizz goes up to 19 for the roll. She gets a +6 on it to attempt that. If she fails, I think she has to start in your deployment zone. I could be wrong with that though. Mimetism -3, Stealth, Terrain Total, which will be useful yet again when the ITS Season 13 starts, and Frenzy. So I think I covered Frenzy when I talked about Caden, but if she kills anything or deals a wound, she becomes impetuous. Now the Dodge +2, unfortunately, because her Fizz is only 13, it does mean that when you're facing kind of high BS things, or anything that was to drop a template at -3, you're kind of down to often kind of lower chance of you succeeding the dodge roll versus face-to-face with a high ballistic skill model. So something I'm always a bit cautious of, but it does give you the kind of full movement if you can pull it off. So she moves 4 dodges, she still gets that 4 inches. Version that I've been using has been the Specialist Operative with a boarding shotgun, D-charges, smoke grenades, assault pistols with +1 burst, and the AP close combat weapon. One thing I've found, despite her martial arts level 2, because perhaps I'm facing JSA who have a strong focus on melee combat, I have found that she's not been that great in combat, and generally speaking, when she's got into combat, it's not been versus something that she necessarily wants to be fighting. So something I need to bear in mind, and I think be a bit more strategic with my movement to avoid any kind of combats like Tanko's dodging into combat and then splitting her with a monofilament weapon. So that is Usha. Moving on, I've got a Cataract. Now I'd picked this up mainly because I picked up some Caledonians, and the person who was selling me the Caledonians also had the Cataract there as well. And I believe they're going to replace this model, which it's a nice model, but you can see it's not as sharp detail-wise as some of the really new sculpts. You can see they've certainly progressed a lot in quality of sculpt since the Cataract came out. I think when we started playing in about 2013, I think this model had been released then as well, so it's been quite a while. It's quite good, T2 sniper rifle. I've only used it in Caledonia. I haven't tried it in the Kosmoflot as yet, but the T2 sniper rifle, it's got a 1-use mimetism -3 camouflage with surprise attack and -3 as well. There's no infiltrate, so it needs, like the Zenit, to stay in your deployment zone. However, if I can take both it and the Zenit, I'm putting 3 tokens down, all with mimetism -3 in the deployment zone, and if I can have all of them roughly within 8 inches of each other, it will be quite a headache trying to work out for the opponent which one's going to be which, and hopefully some good surprises, particularly if I've got them guarding different lanes. It's does have close combat 22, the Cataract, with a fizz of 13, and then the AP close combat weapon, but I think you're generally going to take it for its T2 sniper rifle at BS 12, which is a bit iffy, but yeah, again, it's fairly standard for the Kosmoflot. Moving on, this, yet again, with Usha were the 2 models that I wanted to start Kosmoflot for. Equip Mirage, which is Margot and Duroc, so Margot and Duroc. And they're linked, they're linked in terms of your purchasing the unit options, however, they activate separately. So Margot is technically a heavy infantry. She has move 4/4, CC 16, BS 14, Fizz 12, willpower 13, with armor 3, 0 BTS, 1 wound, silhouette 2. She's quite pricey at 37 points, but you do get a lot or potential with her. But I found her to be quite susceptible to dying quite easily. She comes on, she'll take out a few things and then be taken off, generally from some kind of fire team AROs or that. So I need to work out what the best way of using her is. So she's BS attack shock, immunity shock, she's terrain total and parachutist deployment zone. So both her and Duroc have it, and it allows you to come on from their deployment zone. You could come on from turn 1, but generally speaking, I try and wait a turn and come on at turn 2. So I'm still getting enough out of them, but I'm hopefully allowing some of the stuff to move out of the deployment zone to kind of avoid being just shot off the table as soon as she appears. As far as I'm aware, it takes her full action just to appear on the board edge, which means that it's going to be an unopposed shot. If that's wrong, please let me know in the comments, because it will intensify the use of her greatly if that's the case, that it's a short action or that to do so. She has an AP rifle, a grenade launcher, and a light shotgun. I haven't used the grenade launcher that much. It's 0 to hit at up to 24. It's 13 damage, burst 1, but it does drop the circular template. It's got no or normal ammo types, so it's something I could try, particularly because it's shock due to her special rule. But I've often found that she ends up just using her AP rifle or occasionally the light shotgun that she's also got if she's up in close range. Durok is a bit of a monster. He is 6'4", for his movement, CC 23. He's BS 10, but he comes with chain rifles with +1 burst, so BS is not normally a consideration with him. He's Phys 16, willpower free, armor free, BTS 0, 2 wounds, and silhouette 6, 29 points for him. He's a warband with irregular and impetuous, martial arts level 2, courage, dodge +1, immunity total, which I think I talked over with the Volcalat, his parachutist deployment zone, super jump, impetuous, and vulnerability viral, which hasn't been a factor in our game so far, but when I play Stephen's hack, that may be something I need to watch out for. As mentioned, chain rifle +1 burst, grenades, and smoke grenades. So yet again, I've kind of found he's been a wee bit susceptible. When he comes on, he'll take something out and generally then die fairly shortly afterwards. Because he can't benefit from cover, he's no mimetism. He's very much focused on using his either smoke grenades and then onto the chain rifles, or just the chain rifles, potentially then into combat. But he often ends up just getting shot because the chain rifles would be normal rolls as opposed to face-to-face, which makes it a bit problematic. So I need to do a bit of working out how I'm going to get the most out of him. Moving on, last box set that I've built so far is the support pack. Now they've just released a new support pack which has a 112 on foot, which is the same model that you could get individually, although they've discontinued that model now, or the individual box set, although I do have one on the way at the moment, which I've found, starting with the 112 I suppose, I found the motorised 112, lovely model, great for movement because it's one of the few non-impetuous motorbikes, so it's 8.4 for its movement. However, it often struggles with the buildings in that we've got to actually fit onto places. If it's moving upstairs or that, it needs to complete the full movement, so then it can be placed on the top of the building. If it's only needs to get partially up, then it would be unable to do so. I generally like to spend it kind of activations when I do activate it to kind of run around the deployment zone picking up snipers and things like that. However, I found that because there's no cubes, or there's only one cube in the Kosmoflot force, the chance to actually get somebody back up with it are very limited, and more often than not I fail my willpower and it kills the model I'm trying to heal. It does come with a light shotgun, pistol and close combat weapon. It's got courage, and on the motorcycle it's got a smoke grenade launcher as well. The other model that I've painted up obviously is the Kazakh Doctor. Now I found her to be really useful because she can join the Rakot fire team. So generally speaking, the fire team is either the Volcalat or the Unknown Ranger, 3 Rakots, and then a Kazakh Doctor. She's willpower 13 with Doctor and a Medikit. Other than that, nothing really to write home about. But yet again, found because there's no cubes, it's a wee bit susceptible for causing casualties when trying to heal unconscious models. And the final model in the support pack is the Dozer. Now, I haven't painted him up yet. I have tried him in the game and had some mixed success. However, I'm looking to get a lot more out of him this month, in that I have just bought the Tractor Mule Artillery and Support Regiment. So that will give me 2 remotes, which have a few different options. So there's 3 profiles for the Tractor Mules. One's baggage, which particularly in quadrant control gives an extra 20 points to its total, which is 9 points, 1 SWC. Remote presence, it's immunity to shock, it's got guided BS attack, courage, ECM guided -6, and it comes with a Katusha multiple rocket launcher, and a para close combat weapon -3. It's only BS 10, but because it's guided, I'm hoping to obviously use that special rule. There are armor 2, structure 1, and physical 9. Silhouette 4. So they're I believe they're the 55mm bases, and then the kind of shorter height to them, so the same as the kind of 112s and that. There is a total reaction, which has also got baggage. It's 16 points, 1 SWC. It comes with all the same stats and the same special skills, but it's got the Uragan multiple rocket launcher and the para close combat weapon. And then the final option is the Deactivator, which is a 5-point 0 SWC, comes with baggage, and it only is equipped with the para CC para CC weapon -3. So a good cheap kind of order. They're all regular, so if I've got 5 points spare and I need a spare regular order, then they're a good option for it. The final box set that you can see is the Beyond Operation Crimson Stone, which I just received today as well. And now this comes with 3 options for lieutenants, which was something I was looking forward to getting, and also gives me a couple of different kind of gunfighter options. So it's got William Wallace, who at 35 points I think is a bit of a bargain. He is movement 6-4. He is the only model with a cube, I should say. I'd mentioned that earlier. So movement 6-4, CC 24, BS 13, physical 14, whip 15, which is I think the highest in the sectorial. Armor 3, BTS 0, 1 wound, and silhouette 2. His close combat attacks have +1 damage, taking them up to Phys 15 for them, or the equivalent of Phys 15, I suppose. Berserk +3, so yet again, we'd gone over that with Caden. He's got courage, dodge +2, he's natural born warrior, immunity shock, immunity critical, which is massive, inspiring leadership, and no wound incapacitation, so kind of 1.5 wounds really. T2 rifle with +1 damage, light shotgun, smoke grenades, pistol, and explosive close combat weapon. The inspiring leadership, when he's your lieutenant, he makes all irregular orders regular, which when combined with, should have popped her on somewhere, the War Corps, she becomes a 3-point regular order, which is pretty good. It makes you immune to retreat, and you can spend his lieutenant order, I believe it is, without needing to use a command token to do a combined order. So it seems really good. The only other model I believe with it is Joan of Arc. I've used it in the Caledonian list. I've got the old model, but I've been looking forward to getting this new one. The second model in there is the Cosmosoldat, I think it's pronounced, which is a 45.1.5 SWC heavy infantry headquarters troop. It can also be a lieutenant. Now, this profile, I should say, is the lieutenant profile. So it's movement 4-4, CC 16, BS 13, Phys 14, Whip 13, Armor 6, and BTS 3, which is really good in Ariadna. 1 wound, Silhouette 2. Courage and Dodge Physical 11, so it's effectively the old Dodge -3. Fireteam Duo, Immunity to Shock, No Wound Incapacitation, and Terrain 0G. The version with the Lieutenant has got the AP HMG with +1 damage, so that takes up to damage 16, and AP rounds, which seems quite brutal. And an AP heavy pistol and close combat weapon. I haven't tried these at all, but something I'm looking forward to trying. So the final model in the Beyond Operation Crimson Stone for the Kosmoflot is the Scots with the Shock Marksman Rifle. Now, to use it as lieutenant, it would be the 1st Battalion, although you could use it as the 2nd Battalion, which is the Camouflage and Infiltration, I believe. Now, it is 25 points, movement 4-4, CC 16, BS and Physical 12, Whip 13, Armor 3, BTS 0, 1 wound, and Silhouette 2. It's medium infantry. It's got Courage, Fireteam Duo, Fireteam Harris, Mimetism -3, Stealth, Terrain Total, and Fireteam Core as well. Say Shock Marksman Rifle, Pistol, Close Combat Weapon. Now, it's something I've actually got the old box set coming for as well, because I could use them in Caledonians, and thankfully I found a guy on Facebook who was selling the old box set of them as well. So I'll have the full range of them, minus I think there was a rocket launcher that I don't have, or it's a missile launcher. I've got one of the 2 of them. So they'll be something that will also be turning up shortly, hopefully, and that's coming from America at the moment. So they'll certainly offer some different options to the force. So that's what I've got so far. So as I say, I've got the 112 on foot, as well as the Scots Guard on their way. So that'll take a wee while to turn up though. Other than that, there's a couple of things that I would be looking to add to the faction on top of what we've got. Obviously, once the bear pods have been released, I'll be definitely picking up some of them because they look awesome. I'm not sure the tag raid stuff, if that's going to be available in Kosmoflot or not, but something I could look at. As well as I have some Ermendinos on route as well. Now, they are quite cheap, or at least those cheap options. They're warband troops. There's an 8-point option with chain rifle, and then I think the other option I get 17 points. So they'll have booty engineer as well. So they'll hopefully give me a few different options, potentially not as reliable, because I think you roll for the booty roll, although in certain scenarios it can be quite a boon. The other thing that I'm wanting to pick up for the faction is with Season 13 of the ITS, obviously bounty hunters on motorbikes seem to be available for every faction. So they're something that we've got on order from Tom at Helveticus. So hopefully we'll get them next week. As well as we've hopefully get some gun turrets, because I think you can take a turret in your deployment zone for the new Season 13 as well. So we'll hopefully get some more games in with them, and I'll make some decisions on some more how to use some of the profiles and how best to get use out of Equip Mirage, because they're the one kind of unit, as it were, that I feel like I'm not making the most of at the moment. The rest of them I'm quite happy with how it's been going. Obviously the Unknown Ranger only used for the first time today, so hopefully with a bit more luck and not being stuck behind 0G, I might get more out of her too. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and please check out the blog for further Infinity posts.